And with us now to continue this conversation, Elise Jordan, a contributor to Time Magazine, MSNBC political analyst, and a former aide to George W. Bush, White House and State Departments. Also, Jess O'Connell, a former CEO of the Democratic National Committee, and former executive director of Emily's List. So, Elise, I want to start with you. What do you make of what we've learned so far from this report?
Yamiche, I just find it heartbreaking. I find it incredibly sad. These victims went out of their way to cooperate with the Department of Justice, spent years cooperating, and then they were let down. That's in the report, just how disappointed they were when the Department of Justice didn't go forward. And I think that we know that Matt Gaetz engaged in disgusting behavior. We know that he's sleazy. We know about the drug use. Yes, that's all out there and been reported. What I am baffled about is why the Department of Justice did not do anything with the substantial evidence they had, and why they were so reticent, to actually pursue charges if there was actually a there.
It's an interesting question. Jess, I want to come to you because we just, of course, talked to Congressman Glenn Ivey, and he said that the panel decided to release his report and talked about why he did that. Why do you think? What do you think of that and his reasoning?
Yeah, I was listening to that. Well, I think his reasoning is sound. I think more people obviously have to hear about this. I'm concerned, though, probably that only part of the country will hear about this. I know we have channels and platforms that are out there that aren't even going to report on this. And so I think we're at a stage right now in this country as we move into this new year where, you have leadership from Republicans in Congress that are going to have to hold criminals and corruption accountable. They're going to have to do that. And we're starting to see some of that. I'm heartened to see that. We're in a place where we're going to have courts that are holding people accountable and moving swiftly around that. And we also, and I think Elise kind of mentioned this, we can't forget victims, women and girls, the exploitation and violence that we're seeing. Just because that's the brand of some of the incoming administration doesn't mean that we should accept it. And we're going to have to keep talking about these things because it is outrageous and it's unacceptable. And you hear it in Matt Gaetz's response. Boys will be boys. That was back then, not now. It's totally unacceptable.
Yeah. It's interesting when you think about the future, Elise. What do you think the potential legal and political repercussions for former Congressman Matt Gaetz?
I don't think really anything. I mean, Donald Trump is about to go into office. He is a strong Trump ally. We saw Donald Trump wanted to make him his attorney general and only back down because of opposition from Republicans and media pressure. Even though, all of this was out there and everyone pretty much knew what was inside the report even before the contents had been formally unveiled. So I don't think that he really pays any consequence other than what he, cash payoffs he had to pay to the victims for years and years, and he would disguise as tuition payments.
Yeah. Yeah, and Jess, there's also this idea of sort of going forward. When Matt Gaetz was running for openly being considered for Attorney General, that brief time period, a number of Republican senators said that they wanted to see this report. What kind of precedent does that set, you think, for future administration nominees who find themselves in this position?
Well, I think the Republican senators are going to be working hard on some of this vetting, and we're going to need them to because we're entering into an era. Donald Trump knew, as Elise said, Donald Trump knew about these allegations when he nominated him to be his pick to be Attorney General to handle the laws of the country. He understood who he was nominating, and he continues to understand that as he puts people in front of the Republican Senate and the Republican House. So these members are going to have to stand up. They're going to have to fight against criminals and corruption. And they're going to have to be on guard. Now, Democrats have to do their part, too. And I think in large part that has to be about getting out the message. We can't just keep talking to ourselves, and we have to make sure that people understand that there are victories that are possible. And I think, Matt Gaetz withdrew, left Congress. We're going to have a bunch of victories one day at a time. That's going to be important. We're going to need perseverance around that. And that's what we're looking at over the next couple of months and next couple of years.
Well, Jess, as you talk about victories, both Democrats and Republicans are saying that it's a victory that the government hasn't shut down. This report, of course, came just days after Congress averted a government shutdown by passing a bill to fund the government through March 14th. A lot of Republicans defied President-elect Donald Trump to get the government funded. What does that mean, you think, for how Republicans proceed with the second administration of Trump's agenda once they take control of Congress and once Republicans have really all the power in Washington? Jess?
Well, I think it remains to be seen. I'm glad that the government didn't shut down. I'm here in this area. This would impact my neighbors and people across the country, veterans. All kinds of folks are impacted when we play games with the budget, especially at the end of the year. So I'm thrilled that this got done, this business got done. I think that Donald Trump, when he is actually comes in and gets through inauguration and is seated, his nominees start to come in to the government, and he unleashes some of the folks you've been talking about, Elon Musk and others, into this process. I think we don't know exactly what's coming here. A second Donald Trump term is nothing that any of us have lived through. And I think the Republicans are doing what they can right now. But I think we could see intense pressure on them in the coming months. And we're going to have to hold them accountable from every side in this country to ensure that our Congress continues working for us, not for Donald Trump and his friends.
Well, talking about intense pressure, Elise, how much pressure is Mike Johnson, House Speaker Mike Johnson, under when you think about next week and that speaker vote, given the fact that he took a lot of heat over the funding crisis this week?
Wow, that's a guy you don't really want to be in his position right now of getting so much. You have Elon Musk coming out against him. You have other Republicans turning against him, calling him a big government spender. He is under an incredible amount of pressure right now. And just this whole episode underscores how it's not going to be business as usual anymore. Congress is not going to have a president who doesn't meddle with their internal negotiations. Trump is going to be in there, and he's going to be using his power, his force of personality, and his surrogates like Elon Musk to try to bend them to his way.